How are you guys? Very nice.
Hello and welcome to this week's episode of the Cup of Joe podcast, your weekly Sunday conversation podcast hosted by James, Olly, Will and Ethan. In this week's episode, we'll be discussing education. But before we get into that, how's everyone doing? Do we have any correspondence from last week?
Yeah, we've had quite a few comments reach out to us. I'm quite surprised the amount of people that have got in touch. Really, big shout out to Isla, and she said that she loved every minute of it, and I think KK as well. She said that she watched half of it sober and the rest halfway. Yeah, she has no memory of. So we can only
Perfect.
assume that was.
That's the kind of they're the kind of listeners we want.
If she
Yeah.
if she was watching it when she's drunk, it's obviously good.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I think it was quite fun, quite enjoyable. I quite liked hearing what everyone had to think about it. So I think we're just going to kind of keep going with them until we get bored. Yeah, just keep going. We've got quite a few different topics lined up and ready to go. And obviously this week is about education. So I guess we'll start off kind of talking a bit about our own education. Obviously we all went to the same school at different stages for Olly, obviously. And obviously he did exams and we didn't. What was our school, I guess our school lives like for everyone?
It wasn't too bad, to be fair. I was there from year one, so I was there my whole life. I think James was as well.
Well, I was there from reception. Not even reception. It was day nursery. So yeah, been there. What was it? I think about 16 years.
I was there from preschool as well, so just a year after James. Yeah, so that was.
Yeah,
It's
so
a
all of us
long
were there
time
at least
to spend a long time at that school.
Yeah,
I was there from year
all of us there
9,
14 years.
Yeah, you three were there for quite a while. I was quite late joining. Obviously, I spent a bit of time out of the Lake District and then came back for school.
Why did you actually choose to join, Will?
So I knew about the school from my mum's friend who used to go when it had its old name. I'm trying to be careful not to name names, kind of
When it was an all-girls school.
safety wise. Yes, yeah. So that's how we knew about it, and then we just kind of came up for one of the taster days, and met Mrs. Scott. You know, the fierce kind of admin lady.
Are you kidding? She's lovely. I saw her a couple of days ago, actually.
Did you?
Yeah, I was just driving by. Gave me a wave.
I saw my
Shout out to
dentist
her.
in Tesco's, which was really awkward.
To be fair, it's like when you see like your dentist or your hairdresser and stuff like that, you're like, "Oh, I normally only see you when you're working."
Yeah, I don't have one regular enough that like
No.
they'd recognise me.
What about
I'm always with
teachers,
different
though?
people.
When you see teachers out of school in this, it's literally just like, you don't have any power here, kind of thing.
Yeah,
And then it's
yeah.
awkward. Then after that, you see them, you say hi. It's usually like the supermarket. You'll see them, you'll say hi to them, and then you'll bump into them 4 other times, and it's that kind of awkward.
Well,
Like,
I saw Miss Hubner and Mr. Winter fell foot once, which is a bit weird. This was like after he'd left, or before he rejoined, depending on how you look at it.
So when you were
It was
working,
a weird one. Yeah.
So what was it like? So you didn't do exams. Would you have
No.
rather done your exams, or do you
Yes,
think it was better not doing them?
I would have, which is a really boring answer and probably doesn't give us a lot of content. But what's everyone else's thoughts?
I am very glad that we had coursework, because I know for the fact that I'm much better at coursework than exams ultimately. So for me, I think with my mocks and that I was predicting. Yeah, I won't go into figures because it's quite embarrassing, but yeah, wasn't predicted that great, but
It's
yeah,
all right,
overall.
James. I did higher physics as well. We can
Yeah,
move
higher
on.
physics and higher maths was not a good decision, but no, I was quite happy with the grade I ended up with. Got into uni, the one that I wanted as my first choice, so can't complain about that.
What about you, Ethan?
Well, I mean, obviously, I was doing a slightly different course to these lot. These guys did the IB diploma. I did the IB CP. So I did BTEC business alongside 2 other IB subjects. I mean, I did start on the IB DP. Don't know whether people remember that, but
You
that
started
was
with us in physics.
yeah, it was hell. So I
Yeah,
dropped
how
that
long did that
and
last?
started doing BTEC. When did I drop that? I think it was
Same
just
time as
after.
Josh. October half term, I think.
It was just after October half term, yeah. Me and
Yeah.
Josh dropped at the same time. And it was the best decision I made in that school because the BTEC was so much better. Because I mean, it wasn't even that much of a difference to me when everything went like into lockdown and we had everything assessed over like coursework and stuff. Because most of my course was already coursework. I only didn't have to do exams for chemistry and English, but English was quite a lot of coursework as well, and I was doing quite well in English. So chemistry was probably the one that I looked out on a bit.
Yeah, yeah. I was just going to say, in terms of you saying with English and that whole coursework, I think I was quite lucky with theatre because that is 100% coursework. So I think although you know the other 5 of my subjects had exam elements, which were then just converted to coursework, I feel like the one grade that I can be really proud of is my theatre because that was 100% my work, nothing up to kind of modelling or trying to work out an average. It was what it was.
And in March, it was just one less thing to worry about, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Like obviously you still had the 5, but it was kind of mid to late March when we kind of all left, not really knowing what was happening. It was kind of a bit of peace of mind that whatever happened, that would be okay.
I'm so sad that we didn't get a leavers though. That's one thing that.
To be honest, I couldn't care less about that. I was just.
I didn't even go to my levers.
To me,
Did you
it's
not?
just the same as like going out with your friends in the pub, and in fact, it's better just going to the pub.
Yeah, I went to go and watch James Acaster in Kendal instead of doing my levers, and then I joined him on the night out.
Did you?
Yeah,
I love James Acaster.
he's so funny. I think he's
great.
one of my favourite comedians. Him and John Richardson.
Yes,
Oh,
yeah.
nice.
It's just it's a nice dry sense of humour. It's great.
Yeah. Going back onto exams though, right? I think I'd have been if I didn't
That's the bleep.
sit exams. Like my coursework was absolutely dire. I genuinely would have failed if I didn't sit my exams. So I'm just glad I wasn't in your year.
Well, what was your kind of thinking in terms of coursework? Like, how come it was dire? Was it more the case that
Oh, because I
you
was a lazy.
thought,
Sorry again.
Oh my god, Olly.
absolute potty mouth?
But yeah, I was just lazy, just didn't do anything. So it was my own fault massively. But I
Right.
just couldn't be bothered, clearly. I think if I went back now and did it, I'd put so much more into it because I got more out
Well,
of it.
you've understood,
that's
like-
standard, yeah.
Well, you understand now. It's then going to be easier on you in the long run.
Yeah, I think that's also part of what school should
Just-
be about.
Well, it's just
Like-
the age-old thing. Teachers constantly telling you to do the work, like when you first get it, and like stay on top of it because it's so much easier. And you're just like, nah, it's fine. I know
But
what
I
I'm
think
doing.
You
They
need
don't
to
know.
realise that for yourself, and I think Ollie, now you've seen that, and whenever you are allowed to go to Spain, you'll know, and you'll be able to kind of show
Yeah.
a really good showing for yourself.
Exactly.
You've got the tickets booked, haven't you, for the flights?
Oh, I've had them booked, I've had them cancelled, I've had them booked again, had them cancelled again. God knows what's happening at the moment. I'm just going to wait. So just see when it's going to be like flying's available again, and then book it instead of like booking in hope.
Yeah.
Obviously, in a lockdown, there's no point in holding on to something that's unlikely to happen. But I'm still going to go. It's just when.
So us three went down quite the conventional route of going to uni. But what are you, for anyone that doesn't know, what are you going to go and do in Spain?
Oh yeah, so I'm teaching out in a school over there, helping out with sport and English, and hopefully it'll lead into a teaching career, which is ultimately what I'll end up doing.
Is there like a teacher from school you're going to try and like model yourself on?
I mean, Mr. Reed or Mr. Foster, the two PE teachers.
Yeah, that's who I was thinking you might.
Because I mean, like typical PE teachers, good fun, know what they're doing, keeps entertaining.
Which one would you model yourself to more?
I think purely for the hockey, we'll go with Mr. Reed.
Oh, Fozzie isn't going to be happy with that.
Hopefully, he's not listening.
Yeah.
If he is, Mr. Foster, you are also one of my favourite teachers.
There we go.
So what is it? So you obviously use at uni. What are you studying?
We're all fairly similar, relatively. So I do international business.
I do management and information technology.
And I do business technology. So I think, yeah Will's kind of the odd one out there.
Yeah, that's fine.
He's still in business.
Yeah, it's all kind of like, a lot of it is got like a core kind of bit of management, doesn't it? Really, whether you're
and everyone else like who's doing business at uni, you just all study the same topics.
Pretty
and
much.
the thing is, after studying BTEC business at like IB, there's not much new stuff that we're actually doing.
Yeah, I found lots
that we
of
haven't
like
really done.
The economic stuff and like the global business environment is either just like human geography or like IB standard economics.
It's just repeated, yeah.
Yeah, there's not like a major change. Obviously, next year.
I'm the absolute different.
Well, I mean, on the other end of it, I mean, obviously, I'm doing a bit of coding as well on the side of it, so that's relatively new to me. But with the business stuff, I'm doing all the languages. We've done C#, we've done Java, we've done HTML, CSS, and we're doing C as well.
No Python.
No, not Python yet. But in terms of the business side of the course, it's, I reckon, well, the main difference between uni and sixth form is just being more critical. And I mean, you're an adult now. Like, I don't know whether you guys have noticed that, but I'm doing coursework for my uni course, but it's not necessarily the length of it, because I did BTEC. We used to write like thousands of words, so the length's not really an issue. But it's just about being really critical thinking, like that type of thing, and being really critical with like planning out business solutions and stuff like that. Which is, I think that's the only challenging bit about my course right now.
What sort of like for James and Ethan, what sort of like assessments have you had? Because I've had a few where it's been like a business report, or I've had to analyze like financial statements and stuff, which I quite enjoy. But obviously, you're kind of more tech based. So, what have your kind of assessments been like?
Well, I've had quite a variety of things. There's been, I've had multiple choice quizzes, and then for the business side, the management, just like you will, I've had to do like management reports and that. And for the coding, that has been multiple choices again, but we've also got like a code runner thing. So we'll be set coursework, and we've got a completely sort of task. And basically, we have to put our code into this website, and it's got to produce the expected result. And you're basically judged on the amount of information that you can get correct ultimately. And it's got mixed kind of results in it, because a lot of people like it, but then there's also a lot of people who think it's quite unfair, because say for instance, if your code works on your computer, but as soon as you put it on the website, it spits out wrong. Then you get penalised, and a lot of people have made something that does work, but as soon as it goes on the website, they've got 20-30%.
Do you think that's part of the learning curve, though, to kind of learn how to transfer it to a website, or is that more of a fault in the system?
Yeah, I think a lot of it is a learning curve, to be honest, because when you write code, this is something that I hope Ethan will agree with that. But you write code to be accessible. You don't write code for your computer. You write code so it will work on multiple computers. But I just think that the issue was it wasn't kind of stressed enough to us that the system that we would be using for the exam will actually print differently and work differently to what it does on our computer.
I see. Ethan, anything to add on that?
Well, I'm quite similar to James in how my courses worked. I've done multiple choice and reports and all that jazz, so I won't go into that. But some of my recent assignments, just as an example, was I've had a report on. I've done a couple of reports on Amazon and their business model. They're just 2,000 words, so it's nothing too strenuous or long, but it's just the amount of critical thinking and critical writing is it's a very different style to the BTEC. So it's an interesting new challenge. And on top of that, we've just been coding websites for businesses, and that's just in the form of we basically spend 6 weeks on each unit, and at the end of the 6 weeks we've got to do the assignment, and the assignment for this website is we've been given like a fictional business model, which is just a non-profit charity organization, and we've just been tasked with creating a website for them, and it's got to have a range of different desirable and essential features that you get marked on, and how well they work, and also like how easy your code is to read as well, and like how understandable it is if another coder or engineer had to take a look at it if there's ever a problem for the business. You've got to have that type of understanding available for other people to use it. There's no point coding something that no one else could use apart from yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. Olly, if you kind of look back at, I guess, the last year, are you still happy that you didn't kind of go down the conventional uni route and that you're going off on a different path?
Yeah, definitely. Uni just wasn't for me. I think I definitely had enough of education when I'd finished. So uni would have just been an absolute show, I think. But so obviously, so you're at uni, but you're not actually at uni at the moment. So do you know when you're going back, or like what's going to happen, or what do you reckon is going to happen into like the future of education and stuff with all of this, with kids not being at school now for a year and stuff?
Well, it's with the future of education. If I can just talk for a sec, I read an interesting article talking about Mark Zuckerberg and how he's going to try and get use kind of VR headsets to make like the virtual office for Facebook employees. And I think that's something that we could possibly see in education. So kind of you're in your front room, but you're wearing this VR headset. So it's almost like you're in the class. I just wondered what everyone's thoughts were about that.
Personally, I don't like the idea of that, because I mean, even just like, I'm sure you lot would prefer to be in a classroom than doing online uni teaching like that now. Can I assume that?
Yeah, I think so. But I think it was more kind of, I think obviously face-to-face is definitely the way to go. But it's more kind of, it's more of like a necessity to be at home, kind of where they were pitching.
Yeah, it'd probably be better than using like, Microsoft Teams and group calling. But I think there's so much important, especially in this day and age of face-to-face interaction, that you're in danger of losing if you keep pursuing them sort of communication methods. Like, VR headsets to do meetings is just complete. I could see how it would definitely benefit someone in this time right now, but we can just equally use group calling, and I mean, it raises a lot of health concerns as well, because like VR headsets, if you're in them like all day, every day, it's bad for your eyes. And
I start feeling sick with VR headset.
I mean, I can see how
Really
it would
makes me
help,
feel sick.
but I think face-to-face interaction is so important.
Especially in education and at a young age as well. Like if you don't have that face-to-face like human contact from a young age, like so all the kids that are meant to be starting school now that aren't at school, it'll be interesting to see like how, if they grow up differently, or like their behavioural mannerisms and stuff are different to how everyone that was actually at school with people every day rather than just at home learning online. So like the ages are like 4 to 7 or something, them young ages.
Yeah, that's exactly it. Mike, I think a lot of your education isn't just what you learn from the teacher, it's kind of interacting with other people your age. And that's kind of from, nursery up until kind of uni now.
Well, in terms of how we kind of envisioned uni to be, and that, do you think that this year is what you kind of thought it would be? Did you expect it to be pretty much online?
Not to the extent that it is. Obviously, I think kind of around September, October, when we all started, things were looking pretty positive. And then kind of the December lockdown came in, and then obviously everything got opened back up at Christmas. But at that point, I think I had the sense that we wouldn't be going back.
Yeah, I mean, I'm to be honest, I'm quite disappointed. I didn't really think it would be like this at all. I was looking forward to, obviously I knew that this year wouldn't be normal, but I just think a lot of it is just not the good standard that I kind of expect. I don't know what your two feelings are, but do you think that we're getting value for money this year? When tuition fees are in the 9,000s, but a open learn course is only 3,000. What do you think, guys?
Well, I think obviously, so use all. I'm not at uni, so I don't know what it's been like for you. But it must have been like, obviously you knew part of it was going to be online, but then I reckon so you've gone back around like December. It must have been a bit of a kick in the teeth to then find out that you got to go back home again, and it's all going to be like it was at the start.
Well, I'm quite happy about that actually, because I think I'm happy that they've actually, like, the November lockdown and going into December to try and keep things open for Christmas was a shambles.
Yeah.
Like, it just wasn't harsh enough. And like this lockdown's a proper lockdown, to the same extent as like the first one even. And it's just, and well, yes.
Yeah, it's
in
got
terms
the
of
same
like the
regulations and
rules,
stuff, yeah.
But I know people aren't necessarily following it the same.
Yeah.
Well, that's their problem.
Yeah.
And especially since they're talking about it's lasting till at least the 18th of March. And I'm really happy that they've kept it going this long, because you've got to actually get a handle on it right now, and they can use this time in lockdown to vaccinate people and work on testing and treating it and stuff like that. So yeah, I'm quite happy about that. But in terms of James's question, value for money, I think it's not necessarily a university query, that, because I know a lot of universities could afford to lower their prices for this year, and some have on like accommodation fees and stuff, but that's not your fees. But there's a lot of unis who can't really function if they were to lower their, say, to 3,000 for that year. So I think it's almost more of got to be a good government response, because there'll be like Manchester Uni and Manchester Metropolitan are like, they're still operating in a very like they're working very hard. Like you can tell that just even studying there. Teachers are online all the time. They're always in and out of uni and campus, and the campus has been putting in COVID safe measures and stuff like that. It's so like they're still operating at full capacity and working as if normal. And let's not forget that they've still got to pay their staff as well. So I think there's just got to be a government response to that, because unis can't be expected to do that.
I agree with you there, Ethan. I think if you look at the unis that have the endowment that could lower the fees, then perhaps they should. But I kind of look at it like the money that I'm getting now, like I'm not paying for any accommodation at the moment. And the way I see it, like I'll never see my student loan. Like it's always kind of invisible money, if that makes sense. So obviously I'd prefer to be paying less off when I do have a job. But I think how I'm looking at it now is that it's not money I'll ever physically have. So at the moment, I'm not too bothered. I'm quite happy that they've not charging us any accommodation at the moment. No other people are in a different situation.
So are you not getting charged accommodation, Will?
No. So no
lucky.
accommodation. So my bank account's looking quite healthy at the moment.
I've still got to pay mine.
Yeah.
I mean, we did have a rent rebate. Yeah, it's not really enough for the amount of time that they're asking us to stay away, really.
No, and it's kind of come down to as menial things as I asked for my plant to go and get watered, just because when I eventually get back, I'd like it to be alive, not just have to deal with like a dead plant. And I think that may have slipped away.
Of course, you have a plant in your uni room.
Yeah.
Can you imagine what the
He's
person
so old.
thought when reading that email? Oh, can you please go to my room and water my plants? Probably thought, yeah,
he's got his priorities straight.
I do have my priorities straight.
Fair enough, but yeah, no, I don't know. I mean, I agree about kind of it having to come from the government, because ultimately, they were the ones who told us to stay away. They're the ones who kind of didn't give us advance notice, really, to say, we'll get to universities, we'll make a plan that keeps you in, and like isolated in that. And I think
there's just been a lot of radio silence, hasn't there?
Yeah, because I mean, I think there was 2 questions about universities in the COVID briefings, and Boris just said, "Oh yeah, we'll be we feel sympathetic for students, and we'll be discussing it at some point." But there's been no discussions, and I just feel like students are forgotten. A lot of university students are just forgotten during this pandemic, to be honest.
Yeah, but equally, you can argue in terms of financial help, students are the least important in the grand scheme, because they've got, like Will says, you've got a student loan for that, and that can wait. You can have that written off later by the government. Like, they don't need to. They can sort out solutions for that later in the year when things are better. I think it's more important to protect small businesses and, unemployed, self-employed people, because ultimately they're the ones who will be struggling more through this.
But there is a lot of people who uni students who will get jobs simply because, they can't just cope on the student loan. And,
if they're also on jobs, though, you got to remember they'll be on furlough.
Yeah, but a lot of people, wouldn't have taken anybody on. I would have maybe got a job in term 2, but there's little chance of that, to be honest.
I think it's just a bit of a difficulty with, the government have had to fork up a massive amount of money over the last year, and it's almost, where are they getting it from, and how sustainable is it? I don't know. I feel like there definitely needs to be more done for uni students, but in terms of like the grand scheme of the rest of the economy, I can understand why they've not been as responsive to uni students as like, you know, just normal employees, self-employed, and small business owners, because at the end of the day, that is more important, and they're the ones paying taxes.
Yeah.
I
No, I totally get what you say there.
I'd definitely prefer there be more PPE and ventilators in hospitals than kind of I'm paying off like £100 a month less when I'm 23 or whatever. But obviously it's not ideal, and it's not ideal for anyone, kind of wherever they are and whatever they're doing, because it has been quite a tricky, near enough a year now, and it's been quite, I think, a learning period for everyone about kind of everything. And I just kind of wanted to get your thoughts on if there's anything that you've learned maybe about society or kind of the wider population in general over the past year.
There's some good in the world, but there's also some really, really selfish people.
I agree.
Probably one of the biggest things I've learned.
That a little.
Well, I'll expand a little bit, but it's I just think
keep it PG.
Yeah, I think it's just really like, I don't know whether you saw it in the news the other day. There's some people having house parties in London, and their excuse was they hadn't heard of the pandemic. Which
That's
I'm like, come on, at least think of a better excuse.
Yeah.
I can understand more, you know, like everyone, I want to be out, you know, meeting new people, making friends, and with my existing friends having fun. But at the same time, I just think if people had followed the rules as strict as they should have done, we could have been in a much different position come now.
All you got to do is look at like New Zealand, Australia, the way they did it. Lockdown straight away. I don't know how long it was. I don't know if any of you do, but it worked. And I mean, if you look at them now, they've got full stadiums, festivals, stuff like that.
Yeah, and I think like obviously we look at America, who's not dealing with it amazingly, and then we look at Europe, who's got like kind of a similar landmass but a higher population. And in general, Europe has managed it slightly better through kind of slightly tougher lockdowns. But I think now people are kind of the second wave that everyone was so fearful about has now like hit, and it's come, which has caused kind of more issues than people realised. And it's affected quite a lot of things. But then there are a few countries, I'm going to say a few countries with relatively reliable news sources, like New Zealand and Australia, that have handled it pretty well.
Pretty well, yeah. But I mean, I think you know, in terms of when you look at countries, if we talk about vaccinations and that, I think, you know, Europe have handled the vaccines really poorly, really, really bad. I think, you know, they were slow to act, and, you know, slow to get hold of sources of these vaccines. But I think as soon as we compare it to the likes of, you know, the UK, I mean, what did we get? I think it's about 360 million different vaccines. Sorry, not different, but doses of it.
Doses.
Well, they'll have more than that now as well.
Have you seen the scary statistic? It was just kind of saying about when different parts of the world would get the vaccine, and there was parts of the African continent that were looking at kind of mid 2023, which is like, that's a long way away to be waiting. So we're in a very fortunate position that I think I'm down for September, around there, for maybe my first dose, then a month or whatever after that. Have any of you been on the calculator to kind of see when you'd be?
No.
I think we'll all be around the same time, I think, barring any illnesses that I've not heard about.
Yeah. No, I haven't looked, but I presume. Well, I saw something that was like all over 18s will be vaccinated by summer, or like midsummer or something.
Yeah, they're doing pretty well at the moment. Like the periods are kind of getting closer, so I think we'll hopefully be fairly soon.
Yeah, and then we can, you know, look forward to something closer to normal. Try that again. Closer to normality. That was a hard one to get
We
out.
can record a podcast together.
Yeah,
Yeah,
That would be
actually in
great.
person.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it'd be
you have to
nice.
start thinking of getting a studio.
Yeah, we will. We might need a few more plays for that to happen.
Yeah.
But we're
Just-
getting there.
Just a quick one before we finish. And do you reckon we'll go back to full normality? Do you think we'll ever be normal again, or do you think
I
it'll
hope not.
change drastically?
I hope
No,
not.
Normal will
definitely not a
change.
drastic. Definitely not a drastic change. It'll go back to. No, I truly think it'll just fizzle back into. It'll turn into it'll be like the flu. Like we have jabs for flu every year, and with like new variants and stuff. Once they get good treatments and the vast majority of people immune to serious illness from it, it'll always be there. It's far too world spread for it to be eradicated completely.
Yeah.
I think it's looking a bit like polio. Like the perceived Western world will have dealt with it in like however many years, and then there'll be small outbreaks around the world, but
Which
on the
will
whole
still
it'll be kind
contained.
of forgotten.
Well, and like once we're on top of it, and the vast majority are vaccinated, there's low cases and stuff, we can literally just handle it like a flu. A new jab every year for people who need it. The problem is right now is it's just overwhelming to countries around the world because it's still quite new. But like when it's not as overwhelming, it shouldn't be too hard to manage it. So it'll still be mentioned in life for a long time to come, definitely, and we'll still have it, but we will go back to normal, like yeah.
I mean, when I said before that I hope we don't go back to normality, what I mean by that is kind of, I think a lot of people, hygiene-wise and that, I think, things like keeping hand sanitizer outside at the front of buildings and that, I think that should stay, because I think the amount of things that I used to see people do in supermarkets, like wipe the nose and then pick up things and stuff like that. I just hope that after this, people are a lot more hygienic, maybe, and then there'll be less spread of infections, whether it's COVID, whether it's the flu or whatever.
Well, I
And
definitely
then-
think that's going to happen because, like, even just like how coronavirus first came about, it's if we handle everything more hygienically and we're more careful with how we do things and stuff, there was always going to be less outbreaks of stuff. And I do think there's a lot that could have been learned from, is being learned from the pandemic. So I do think there'll be different regulations on like even how it originated in China and stuff, and like how it's like the meat trade and stuff like that. I mean, I don't know a massive amount about it, but there's definitely gonna have to be changes to worldwide like regulations and stuff on that to minimize the transmission of potentially lethal diseases.
If any of the listeners have any thoughts, feel free to contact us on our socials.
Yes, so you can get us on Instagram at Cup of Joe. We've got our email address, cupofjoe@gmail.com. And make sure you sub to our YouTube as well. We'll have extra content there. Put comments in there about anything that you want to see, any thoughts about anything that we've talked about, and yeah.
Next week's topic will be a bit lighter. It'll be kind of some would you rathers, which we'll discuss. So feel free to send in any that you have. We've also
Obviously
got
PG.
Yeah, keep them PG. And we've also, in the next couple of weeks, we've got quite a nice announcement to make, which we're quite excited about. So we hope you can join us next week. Send in everything to the socials that James has listed. They'll also be in the description below on any of your favorite podcast providers. I believe we're on 8 platforms, 8 or 9.
Yeah, it's I think it's 8 that we're on.
Yeah, James, you're the start man. Come on.
Yeah, eight platforms that we're on, different podcasts and YouTube as well. yeah, we'll just see what happens. We might. I think there's a couple more that we can try and get on to.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Great. Well, thank you all very much for listening. We've been the Copper Joe podcast, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your Sunday.
Cheers, guys. See you.